Let's take you live to the KICC, where the Building Bridges initiative is this morning receiving views from professional bodies on the initiative for a constitutional review in the country. Let's listen in.
And from the onset, I say this is one of the most lauded, inclusive and participatory constitutional review process that has ever been there. And in our wisdom, we think that when we juggle between presidential and parliamentary system of government, then we might just find the perfect system of government to serve and also to address the challenges that we are facing as a country. That's why we are advocating for a president with a deputy, but also on the flip side, we also have a prime minister who sits in parliament with his two deputies as head of government. Basically,
then that's a hybrid system. It's
yes.
not a pure parliamentary system.
Yes. Yes, this is a hybrid system of government, and that is what we are advocating for. It is explicitly written in our document, of which I think you'd find time to peruse. And basically, what informs this is the nature of our politics, where we have given too much premium to the president. And we think that if we can be able to dilute some of the powers from the president and introduce a prime minister who sits in government, who can also be checked by members of parliament, then we might just have a perfect system to address the problems that we are having as a country. Secondly, it was about the Youth Commission that we had proposed. And this is in cognizant of some of the proposals that we have, some of the acts of parliament that have been passed, and also some of the policies that we are having to address the marginalization of the young people across the country. And we think that these policies, these acts of parliament, can be best audited if we have a youth commission. It's only when we have a youth commission that can audit what the ministries are doing. If, for instance, let's say what Ruth is proposing in our document, that we have 30% of government being young people, who will be there to audit that? We must have a commission. We cannot just leave this to parliamentarians or legislators to audit. We must also have a commission that at the end of the day can give us data of how many young people are in government. Lastly, it was about the 7-year presidential term, about the fact that we are proposing for a non-renewable. I think I explained it better, that we don't want to have the yoke of incumbency on the Kenyan people, that if you serve your first 7-year term, then we bid you goodbye and you go into retirement. Why we chose for a 7-year term, and I can say that we were actually the first group to propose for a 7-year non-renewable term before it was copy-pasted to the Punguza Mzigo bill on the other side. We were thinking that there are several development projects, and through research, through studies that have been done, there are several development projects that their lifespan cannot sometimes be limited to 5 years. So we were thinking that 7 years would be good enough and it would be long enough for that particular president, if he comes up with a manifesto, because we are actually advocating for objective politics, we are advocating for policies that work for our people, that if they have those particular proposals, then 7-year term is long enough for them to ensure that they have started, they have launched those projects, and they have also ensured that they have run through and they have been completed in that particular time. Thank you.
The next person.
Yeah, thank you. Because most of these questions have been directed to me, I'll also take 30 minutes. I only take 2 minutes. I think most of the questions from Honorable and also from secretaries on regional assemblies. Yes, the regional assemblies we are proposing, and first and foremost, from the onset, I made it clear that we have 2 sets of documents. It is not really divergent of views as such, because youths really have also different ideas, and you need to merge all of them into some comprehensive documents. It's not very easy to have all youths agreeing on one agenda or one proposal, so we try and much as possible to include all their views together. So that's why we have 2 sets of documents, and mostly the other one was from the members of parliament who have also their views from the legislative point of view. That's why this leads to divergent. Regional assemblies that we are proposing is for the 8, provincial the previously provinces that divided this nation into 8 regions to be the regional assemblies of members of county assemblies currently, not to sit at the county assembly, but to sit at the regional assembly. So in other words, the members of the county assemblies are there. They represent in each ward, but they'll not sit at each county assembly because they'll be legislating laws that are similar with that region. Say Kisumu, there are laws of maybe Siaya, Kisumu, Migori, for example. They are almost similar. So why should they have them legislating differently?
An administrative unit.
Yes.
And the region becomes
the constitutional unit. And the counties are now left with the mandate of really concentrating on the economic development of that particular county. But the legislation is at a regional level. And therefore, where our parliament here is 349. So when you are afraid of 400, it is more or less the same as we are here at parliament. And most of this legislation, mark you, they take place in committees. A committee can comprise of maybe 30 or 50 members of the county assembly. So the idea of being a volume of members together is not really, I think the advantages override the disadvantages in our view. That's why we propose in the regional assemblies to legislate laws that are, identical to that particular region. And we propose 8 regions. It will also help us in, on wage bills as well. The other question was the presidential terms that he has explained very well. And the chairman asked that people will get tired of 7 years. Show me a president in Africa who has served 5 years. Whether you give him 7 years or not, they still serve more than 20 years. So is the power you invested in the presidents and the power he has determining that even at the election time it automatically gives him time, more time. So if we curb the appetite of most leaders trying to twist the election so that they serve more term, we simply put a limit to that term. And it is not it has become increasingly difficult to defeat a sitting member of parliament, a sitting president in any African country. You cannot really defeat a sitting president. So the best way is to put 7 years. You have an agenda for the nation. You can champion for this agenda within 7 years. And it is not also very easy to actually commit to finish your agenda for our country within 5 years. 7 years, we think, is the best. If you have, like, for example, the 4 agenda.
That point has come through.
Yeah, 60%. Somebody said that we are 60%. Why should we not elect one of our own? Our politics has become monetarized. That it is the big boys in town who can control our politics in terms of money they possess and resources. It is not something we can hide our face out of it, and therefore the youth become limited in this aspect. So that's our biggest. We have the number, but we don't have the money. You give us the money and we'll have one of our own. Yeah. Yeah, we were given money by our friends.
Thank you for your honesty.
Yes. So add us more and we'll have one of our own as a president. Elected, why we put focus on the elected and not appointed as having the powers of the people. We are in a democratic space that vests our sovereign power in the people. And that power is only delegated to democratically elected leaders. So we believe that because the power is vested in the people, belongs to the people, and those people have elected and decided to vest that power in the democratically elected representatives, then we think the executive should also show a reflection of that power. When we have members of the ministers, you've heard initially, we are saying in the context of this country, we've borrowed our constitution from other jurisdictions. But remember, our cultural and the social setup is very different. from other jurisdictions that we borrowed this constitution from. Our country is so diverse in terms of tribal affiliations. And therefore, if we need to accord an opportunity in terms of tribal representation, we need to vest the same power to the executive. Initially, when we had members of ministers who are representing more or less tribes, you are very powerful, and every tribe felt that one of our own is in the executive, is a minister, and he is re-elected. An example is that some of the people who are serving in the current cabinet who are not elected, the community do not feel is one of their own, because maybe somebody just served in the UN, he came here, he was appointed by the president to be a CS, and the minister, if you say maybe for a particular region that one of your own is in the cabinet, they say, no, we never elected him, we don't know him. So for you to also make the various tribes feel that we cannot be the president, but at least one of our own is in the executive. So that's why we have these proposals. I hope I've answered all the questions. Should the
question Paul is saying you haven't answered, that youths have talked of rights. What's the, oh, that's for...
That's where she's coming.
That is Saboti, Member of Parliament, Kaliba Misi, there giving his views to the